Pakistan thought it had cracked the code. Flatter Donald Trump, sign a defense pact with Saudi Arabia, play both sides and reap the benefits. For a country that has spent decades aiding terror networks and playing the fool when asked about it, this felt like a masterstroke until it absolutely backfired. Field Marshal Asim Munir got a White House lunch. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif nominated Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize.
And today, again, I would like to nominate this great president for Nobel Peace Prize.
Pakistan slid into Washington's good books faster than anyone expected. But here's the thing about playing too many sides at once. Eventually, the sides start playing you. West Asia exploded, US struck Iran, and suddenly Pakistan's clever little balancing act looked less like strategy and more like a man standing on three boats in a storm. You see, Pakistan's defense pact with Saudi states aggression against one as against both. And this is where the gamble starts to backfire. Saudi Arabia invoked the defense pact, and suddenly Pakistan's elaborate diplomatic juggling act became a live grenade. Today here at India Today Global, we argue, can Pakistan actually stay neutral, or did it just sign its own geopolitical suicide note? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. Right now, Pakistan faces three problems at the same time. First, it must balance Iran and Saudi Arabia while the region burns. Second, it must calm anger amongst its own Shiite population. Third, it must keep its new friendship with Donald Trump alive. Each of these problems alone would test a government. Pakistan gets all three together, and none of them are small. Let's start with the pact that started all of this. On 17 September 2025, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia signed the Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir all put their names on it. The language was bold and unambiguous. Any aggression against one country shall be considered aggression against both. The agreement covered joint exercises, shared intelligence, and the full range of military capabilities. Analysts compared the wording to NATO's Article 5. Pakistan's military, for the first time in its history, made an official and formal defense commitment to a foreign power beyond its own borders. At the time, it looked like a brilliant move. Saudi Arabia needed reassurance after America's credibility took a beating in the region. Pakistan needed money, oil on deferred payment, and the diplomatic warmth that comes with being Riyadh's most trusted Muslim military partner. The deal made sense on paper, but the ink had barely dried when the region exploded. Now here's where Pakistan's grand strategy starts to fall apart. Iran fired on Saudi soil. The defense pact got invoked. Asim Munir went to Saudi Arabia for a meeting, and Riyadh made it very clear that the pact exists for exactly this moment. They discussed, in the Saudi prince's own words, and I quote, "We deliberated on Iranian assaults on the kingdom and the actions required to curtail them in accordance with our joint strategic defense agreement." He urged Iran to exercise wisdom and avoid miscalculation, framing it as a security threat. But here's the problem Pakistan cannot talk its way out of. The country that Iran is at war with, the country whose strike started this whole situation, is the United States of America. American jets and Israeli aircraft killed Khamenei. American military bases sit inside Saudi Arabia, the very territory Iran keeps targeting. So if Pakistan deploys air defense assets to protect Saudi Arabia, it does not just become a party to the Iran-Saudi conflict, it becomes a party to the Iran-America conflict. And Pakistan spent months crawling into Trump's good books precisely to avoid becoming America's enemy. The pact designed to strengthen Islamabad's position has trapped it in a contradiction it cannot resolve. Pakistan's courtship of Trump deserves its own chapter because without it, none of this would sting quite so much. From the moment Trump returned to the White House in January of 2025, Islamabad went into full charm offensive mode. When Pakistan and India nearly went Nuclear in May of 2025 after Operation Sindoor, Trump claimed he brokered the ceasefire. Pakistan thanked him loudly and often so. Then, in June 2025, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, a Nobel nomination for Donald Trump. That alone tells you how desperate Islamabad was to get noticed.
And today, again, I would like to nominate this great president for Nobel Peace Prize because I genuinely feel that he is the most genuine and most wonderful candidate for Peace Prize because he has brought not only peace in South Asia, saved millions of people, their lives. And today, here in Sharm el-Sheikh, achieving peace in Gaza is saving millions of lives in the Middle East. Mr. President, I would like to salute you for your exemplary leadership, visionary leadership. And I think that you are the man this world needed most at this point in time. World would always remember you.
It worked. Trump called Field Marshal Asa Munir his favorite field marshal. Munir got a solo White House lunch, the first Pakistani military chief to receive that honor. Pakistan offered rare earth minerals, Balochistan resource access, and a revived counter-terrorism dialogue. In return, it got tariff relief, F-16 sustainment, IMF backing, and the kind of American warmth it had not felt in over a decade. Pakistan was back, relevant again, a player. Then US struck Iran. The diplomatic response from Islamabad has been creative. When US and Israeli strikes killed Khamenei, Pakistan called them unwarranted. Hours later, when Iran retaliated against Gulf states, Pakistan condemned those strikes as blatant violations of sovereignty. Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar launched what he described as shuttle communication between Riyadh and Tehran. He told Iran about Pakistan's defense pact with Saudi Arabia. He told Saudi Arabia about Iran's concerns over its territory. He reportedly secured assurances from Riyadh that Saudi soil would not serve as a launch pad against Iran.
जनाब अब्बास अरागची जो फॉरेन मिनिस्टर हैं ईरान के, उनसे रब्ता किया कि भी क्या सिचुएशन है, ये जो खबर आई है ताकि मैं उसको वेरीफाई करूं अटैक की. तो ऑफिशियली within no time ये हमने we strongly condemned the unwarranted attack against Iran and called for an immediate halt to escalation through urgent resumption of diplomacy to achieve a peaceful negotiated resolution to the crisis. ये पाकिस्तान का पहला रिएक्शन था 28 फरवरी 2026 को. और उसके बाद अनफॉर्चुनेटली within one more day we had a very unfortunate खबर कि His Eminence आयतुल्लाह सैयद अली खमनाई साहब को शहीद कर दिया गया है. उस पे हुकूमत और पाकिस्तान के अवाम की तरफ से वज़ीर आज़म ने बयान जारी किया ट्विटर के ऊपर. द गवर्नमेंट एंड द पीपल ऑफ पाकिस्तान जॉइन the people of Iran in their hour of grief and sorrow and extend the most sincere condolences on the martyrdom of His Eminence Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. Pakistan also expresses concern over violation of the norms of international law. It is an age-old convention that the heads of state, government should not be targeted. May Allah Almighty grant patience and strength to the Iranian people to bear this irreparable loss. ये 1 मार्च की ये रिकॉर्ड पे है.
Tehran appreciated the gesture. Iran's ambassador to Saudi Arabia publicly welcomed the pledge. For about 24 hours, it looked like Pakistan's diplomacy had actually worked. Then Iran fired 3 ballistic missiles at Prince Sultan Air Base anyway. the base that houses American troops, the same base that Pakistan had supposedly just helped protect through diplomatic assurance. Hours later, Asim Munir landed in Riyadh. Pakistan's domestic front adds another layer of chaos that Islamabad cannot afford to ignore. Pakistan has the second largest Shia Muslim population in the world after Iran. Shia Muslims make up roughly 20% of Pakistan's 250 million people. When Khamenei died, those communities did not sit quietly. At least 23 people died in protests across Gilgit-Baltistan. In Karachi, protesters stormed the US consulate. American Marines fired on the crowds. There are now demands for criminal cases against the US Consul General. The government deployed army and imposed curfews, but the anger did not go away. It sits there, hot and dangerous, waiting for the next provocation. Every pro-Saudi signal Pakistan sends to the outside world reads as a betrayal to a significant portion of its own population. And Pakistan's government, already short on political legitimacy, cannot afford to look like it sold out its Shia citizens for a defense pact and a White House lunch. The economic stakes make every calculation harder. Saudi Arabia is not just an ally, it is a financial oxygen tank. Over 75% of Pakistan's crude oil imports come from the Gulf. Around 2.7 million Pakistani workers live and earn in Saudi Arabia, sending home between $5 and $10 billion every year. During Pakistan's balance of payments crises, Riyadh stepped in with multi-billion-dollar bailout packages. The IMF backstop that keeps Pakistan solvent partly depends on Saudi goodwill and deposit guarantees. Iran, by contrast, offers a shared border, a stalled gas pipeline, and bilateral trade worth a fraction of what Saudi Arabia provides. Under American sanctions, Iran's economic value to Pakistan remained largely theoretical. The math here is not complicated. Saudi Arabia keeps the lights on, Iran does not. But here's what makes it dangerous. If Pakistan tilts too hard toward Riyadh, Iran does not just get offended. Iran has leverage on Pakistan's western border. Balochistan, already a powder keg of separatist violence, sits right next to Iranian territory. The Zainabiyon Brigade, a Pakistan-origin Shia militia trained, funded and commanded by Iran's Revolutionary Guard, has thousands of fighters with combat experience from Syria. Pakistan banned the group in 2024. Almost nobody believes the ban worked. If Islamabad becomes openly anti-Iran, those fighters do not stay in Syria. Analysts have laid out Pakistan's options with brutal clarity. Direct military action against Iran, combat aircraft, ground troops, offensive strikes is not realistic. The domestic cost alone would be catastrophic. Covert support to Saudi Arabia, intelligence sharing and air defense cooperation are the most likely paths. Islamabad could quietly help Riyadh build better missile defense without putting boots on any battlefield. That is militarily meaningful and politically deniable for now. But the window narrows with every Iranian strike. Saudi Arabia and the UAE declared that Iran crossed a red line. A joint statement from the United States, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE affirmed the right to self-defense. Gulf Cooperation Council edges toward direct military involvement. If that happens, if the GCC formally enters the war, Pakistan's carefully constructed ambiguity collapses overnight. The pact gets tested for real. And Islamabad has to answer a question it has spent months avoiding. Whose side are you on? History offers a warning here. In 2015, Saudi Arabia asked Pakistan to join its Yemen coalition. Parliament voted no. Pakistan stayed out. Saudi Arabia did not forget. The current pact, signed a decade later, was Saudi Arabia's attempt to get a firmer commitment. It got one. Now it wants to collect. Pakistan's strongest card, for the moment, remains diplomacy. It has access to both Tehran and Riyadh. It carries enough trust on both sides to pick up the phone and be heard. That matters. But diplomatic capital has a shelf life, especially in an active war. Every day the missiles fly, every day Saudi infrastructure burns, the gap between a phone call and a military decision shrinks. The country faces a hard truth. It got into Trump's good books by making itself useful. It signed a defense pact with Saudi Arabia by making itself indispensable. It maintained Iran ties by making itself non-threatening. And it built that entire structure on the assumption that its key partners would never directly fight each other. That assumption is now ash. Pakistan did not miscalculate the relationship with any one ally. It miscalculated the stability of the entire architecture itself. Can Pakistan stay neutral? Probably not for much longer. Shuttle diplomacy buys weeks, maybe months, but a formal Saudi request for military assistance, a direct Iranian strike on Saudi-based American infrastructure, or a GCC declaration of war changes everything. At that point, Pakistan does not get to choose neutrality, it gets to choose which catastrophe it prefers. A country that spent the better part of a year nominating Trump for Nobel Prizes and pitching Balochistan's minerals to American investors did not build itself a neutral reputation. It built itself a reputation as a transactional partner willing to lean west when the price was right. Iran noticed, the region noticed, and now, with the war at its doorstep, Pakistan's carefully managed image as everyone's friend looks exactly like it always was, a strategy built for peacetime in a region that just stopped being peaceful. Thank you for watching Statecraft.